Hello again, YouTube land. Try recording this again because I got interrupted before. So it's about 2:15ish on Friday, and as I sit here recording, continuing news is coming in about the shooting in Connecticut. In a town called Newton. I'm going to title this one, Remember Where You Were When. There are days, and I admit this morning was one of them, where the day started out, and the random thought passed through my mind, comparatively speaking, in our lifetime, meaning those of us born in the late 70s, early 80s, it doesn't seem always like a significant amount of historical things have taken place. Because I have a perspective of history that says, people alive during the Civil War knew how historic what they were going through was. People alive in the 20s during Prohibition and the Great Depression knew how historic what they were living through was, and etc., etc. There are things in each successive period of time. And I think, the 80s and the 90s, it doesn't seem like that much happened. I mean, technology-wise, okay, yes. Social media-wise, okay, yes. But social media and the internet, the biggest impact they have is in the dissemination of information. Unless you're very technologically minded, their expansion, creation, and development in and of itself is not the kind of historical I'm talking about when I mention historical significance. They are, but significant, but not in the way I'm thinking. But as I was sitting down to record this, I had to stop and think to myself, well, you know what? Today is one of those days, because of this significant and tragic shooting at a school, that you stop and you reassess the kind of similar events that have gone on, and you think, well, do I remember where I was when this historic, significant thing happened? Or any significant public event that subsequently is deemed historic. So today I'm here, I'm doing my exercise, and I'm following everything on social media because I'm clearing out some stuff on my DVR because Friday is supposed to be my day off at home to do what I want. And I come to record this and I'm thinking to myself, well, what came before this that was significant, that could prove historic? I remember being in Maine in July, visiting my parents for our summer visit when the shooting in Aurora took place. I remember my mother, not my mom Lynn, my mother, that's how long ago that was, keeping me home from school the day they announced the verdict in the O.J. Simpson murder trial. I didn't get to stay home to watch a lot of that trial because at the time you could only record things on VHS, and my mother didn't want to waste the tape, as she put it. But I remember she kept me home for the trial's verdict announcement. I remember being at home watching the news on a Saturday morning, I think, or it might have been a morning before school, when Princess Diana was killed with Dodi Al-Fayed in the car crash. I remember being aware of the trial of the Menendez brothers, and I remember the sort of media controversy that happened when the storyline in Murphy Brown led to her being a single mother. The things my mind remembers as significant are unusual to most people, I'm sure. I remember watching a bunch of different shows when they ended. I was actually born the year MASH finished airing, 1983. But I know that to this day it's the highest rated finale ever. And having seen it only once, because my dad had it on VHS, because they never really aired the final episode anymore. I remember having the experience watching it and thinking, wow, I can see why this was a big deal. To this day, MASH is one of my favorite shows. But I wasn't alive for the moon landing, and I wasn't around for the gas crisis of the 70s or things like that. I remember hearing about the Berlin Wall coming down, but I was at school. I vaguely remember hearing about someone shooting at President Reagan, but I think I was too young at the time to really be aware of the significance. So, you know, these are the things. And I remember I was home watching the news in the kitchen with my dad when they started reporting about Columbine, which is really kind of one of those events where you have to stop and think about it, because Michael Moore movies notwithstanding, many people have very strong opinions on Columbine and what's taken place since then. And I understand why. And I'm not going to quibble with anyone over anything, your standpoint or anyone else's standpoint, pro or con, or line of logic and justification. As I said in the last thing I posted about don't blame the victim, I think that holds true in all situations. Like I said, all loss of life is a crime. Period. It feels like a criminal act against us if someone dies of natural causes. It only feels significantly compounded when someone's life, by whatever means, is ended before the point of natural death. Meaning, I guess primarily old age is what I'm talking about. You know, any kind of tragic accident, auto, plane, any kind of horrific experience, suicide, gunshot, stabbing, whatever. All loss feels like a criminal act. So, if you don't see much from me on social media today, it's not that I'm not aware of what's going on. I am. But I'm me, and I'm here. I'm not there. I'm not related directly to the situation. I'm not a victim. I'm not a relative of a victim. I'm not the criminal. I'm not a relative of the criminal. I'm not a member of that particular school or that particular community. So there's no extreme valid point of view I can offer. I can offer that all loss of life is a crime, and I can offer that those who suffer such tragedy should be cared for with a disproportionately higher amount of love and compassion than the tragedy that they've experienced. And a lot of that formulates back to the theorem that it takes a village to raise a child. Because being social is what humans do. We are pack animals. We need others around us to understand how it works, where to go, what to do, how to do it. And no singular creature is meant to take care of their young on their own. At least I can't think of one. I'm not a zoologist, but I can't think of one. So when any significant tragedy hits a community, especially one that affects the young, or the younger of that group, it should also, in my view, be an act of community that cares for them. And as humans, as a nation, as we define ourselves, we are all a community. We don't yet define ourselves completely as a global community, but whether it's the literal community, the community of the county, the community of the state, or anything expanded out from there, it's not a situation for a lot of commentating. It's a situation for a lot of compassion. That's how I felt every other time I've heard about any kind of mass shooting or mass tragedy. There's no real eloquent way to end when you're talking about a subject matter such as this, so